There's a sound a town makes when it knows somebody's about to die. Not shouting, not the scrape of chairs or the smash of glass. Nothing as obvious as that. It's a stillness, the kind that presses against your eardrums like cotton soaked in river water. Dogs stop moving. Women stop hanging laundry. Even the wind seems to reconsider. I've heard that sound in a dozen towns across this territory. Every single time, somebody ended up horizontal before sundown. The town of Creede, New Mexico made that sound on a Thursday morning in October of 1879. And the man at the center of it, the reason the whole town held its breath, wasn't even worth the bullet that was coming for him. He was 18 years old. His name was Jesse Morrow. Just a boy, a ranch hand's son who'd come to Creede 3 weeks earlier looking for work after his father's place got swallowed by a land speculator out of Santa Fe. He'd found work at the Harmon livery, mucking stalls and reshoeing horses for $1.25 a week. Not enough to eat well. Enough to eat. On the morning everything went wrong, he was carrying a bucket of oats through the main street when a man on horseback cut the corner too sharp and knocked the bucket clean out of his hands. The oats scattered across the dirt. The man didn't stop, didn't apologize, barely looked back. But Jesse said something. He said, "Hey." One word. That was all. The man who turned around was named Cole Verrett. He looked down at Jesse Morrow for a long moment, looked at the oats on the ground, looked back at Jesse. "You got something to say to me, boy?" "You could have watched where you were going," Jesse said. "Those oats cost me 12 cents. The street went quiet, not suddenly, the way a fire goes out. One last crackle, and then nothing. Cole Verrett smiled. The smile of a man who has been given a gift. 12 cents, Cole said. That what you think your life is worth, boy? He paused, adjusted one gloved finger on the saddle horn. Sundown tomorrow, Main Street. You come, or I find you wherever you're hiding, and we do it there. He rode away. The town exhaled.
Jesse Morrow stood in the dirt street with oats at his feet, understanding, with the terrible clarity that only comes after the moment has already passed, exactly what he'd done. He went to Sheriff Aldous Briggs first. The sheriff's office was a narrow room that smelled of stale tobacco and old leather. The walls hung with wanted circulars that curled at the corners like dead leaves. Sheriff Briggs listened. Then he said, "Son, Cole Verrett hasn't broken any law. I can't stop a legal proceeding." "He'll kill me,"
Jesse said. "Yes," the sheriff said, not unkindly. "He likely will." Jesse went to Harmon at the livery next. Harmon said, "Boy, the only thing that saves a man from Cole Verrett is a faster man, and there isn't one in Creede." That night, Jesse didn't sleep. He lay on his cot in the small room behind the livery, one hand pressed flat against his sternum like he was trying to keep something inside from getting out, listening to the horses shift in their stalls, that soft percussion of hooves on packed earth, the occasional wet breath, the creak of the wooden walls talking to the October wind. The revolver he owned was a beat-up Colt single-action Army that had belonged to his father. The bluing worn off the barrel in long, pale scratches, the grip cracked on one side and wrapped in a strip of saddle leather. He'd fired it maybe a dozen times in his life, at cans on a fence post, never fast, never with any particular skill.
Jesse stared at the ceiling and thought about his father, about the way the old man used to say that pride was a luxury poor men couldn't afford. 24 hours from a death he'd bought himself with a single word. Hey. One word. And somewhere in the dark, beyond the eastern road, someone was already riding toward that word, though he didn't know it yet. He arrived the next morning. A stranger. He came in on the eastern road just after first light, riding a dun horse that moved with the careful economy of an animal that had covered a great many miles and expected to cover many more. He had a battered hat pulled low and a canvas coat the color of something that had been brown once and hadn't made up its mind since. His face was deeply lined. His beard was white at the jaw, gray at the upper lip. His hands, when he tied off his horse at the rail, were thick and deliberate. He looked the town over for about 8 seconds. Then he knew everything he needed to know about it. He went inside and asked for a room. His name, he told the clerk, was Elias Wade. He hadn't come to Creed for Jesse Morrow. He hadn't come for Cole Verrett. He'd come because the road east had run out of reasons to keep him moving, and Creed was where it ended. Jesse saw him for the first time an hour later, in the street, by accident. The old man was coming out of the general store with a paper parcel under his arm. Something made Jesse stop. Maybe it was the way Elias Wade moved. Not swagger, not aggression. Something more like gravity. Like the ground beneath him was more solid than the ground beneath everyone else. Two of Cole Verrett's men, Draper and Sykes, came around the corner at that exact moment. They were pushing an old Navajo man, laughing about something, shoving him toward the street. The old Navajo stumbled, fell. One of his bundles of goods scattered across the dirt. Draper kicked one of the bundles into the dust and kept walking. Everyone on the street looked away. Elias Wade didn't look away. He set down what he was doing, walked over to the Navajo man, and helped him stand. Then he picked up each scattered item with the unhurried care of someone who had all the time in the world, placing them back in the bundle, handing it to the old man. Draper turned around. "You got something to say, old man?" Elias Wade looked at him for a moment. Just looked. "No," he said finally. "Nothing to say." Something in that nothing made Draper decide not to push it further. He spat in the dust and walked on. Jesse stood in the street and felt something shift in his chest. He found Elias Wade an hour later in the hotel dining room, eating eggs and drinking coffee like a man who takes meals seriously. Jesse sat down across from him without being invited. Elias set down his fork, looked at Jesse with eyes that were gray-green, and held the particular stillness of deep water. "You need something," the old man said. It wasn't a question. Jesse told him everything. The spilled oats, the one word, Cole Verrett, the duel at sundown. He told it quickly, without self-pity, because he'd decided on the walk over that self-pity was the one thing he couldn't afford. "What are you asking me?" Elias said. Jesse looked at the table, looked up. "Take my place," he said. The words sat between them like something that had been dropped. "Die in my place," he said, quieter. "I just know I can't beat him, and I think maybe you can." "How old are you?" Elias said. 18. "You got family anywhere?" "Father's gone. No one else." Elias turned the coffee cup in his thick fingers, around. "Go back to the livery," he said finally. "Stay there until it's done." "Why are you doing this?" Jesse asked. "Because," Elias said, and for the first time, something moved across his face. Not quite a smile, not quite pain, something exactly between the two. "A boy is dead who shouldn't be, and the man who killed him is still walking around breathing my air." He put on his hat and walked out. Here's something the dime novels never bothered to tell you. There was a rule, an old rule, older than this territory,
that said a man didn't have to face his death alone. He could ask someone to stand in his place. A champion. Legal, formal, recognized under the code Duello. The challenger could accept or refuse. And if Cole Verrett refused, Jesse would have to stand himself, or be marked a coward in every town between here and the Rio Grande. Elias Wade walked into that saloon knowing all of this. Cole Verrett, as it turned out, knew all of it too. Draper and Sykes were at the corner table when Elias walked in. They watched him cross the room without moving. Whatever they saw in the way he walked, it was enough to keep them in their chairs. Cole sat at the bar with a glass of whiskey. He listened to Elias state his intention without turning around. Then he turned on his stool. Something passed between them. Some recognition older than this town, older than this territory. "Wade," Cole said, not surprised. The tone of a man who had been expecting a knock on a particular door for years and had finally heard it. "Verrett," Elias said, "you know this doesn't have to happen. The boy apologizes publicly. We're done." "The boy's got nothing to apologize for," Elias said. "That's a bully looking for a reason." Cole's jaw tightened. "Sundown," he said. "Main Street." "Apparently," Elias said. He walked back out. At 4 o'clock, Harmon found Jesse in the livery. He accepted. Cole Verrett accepted a stand-in. A man named Elias Wade. He rubbed his face. Elias Wade was the fastest gun in New Mexico Territory from 1861 to 1872. They called him the cartographer, because he always made a map of where the bullet was going before he sent it. "He said something about a boy," Jesse said. "A boy who died who shouldn't have." Harmon went very quiet. "That would be Thomas Verrett, Cole's younger brother. 18 years old, 4 years back. Thomas tried to step in as his brother's champion." He stopped. Thomas Verrett had never been in a gunfight in his life. He was dead before he hit the ground. "Elias Wade killed Cole Verrett's brother," Jesse said. "In a fair duel, legally. But yes." Harmon looked at him. "Cole's been carrying that for 4 years, and now it's coming home to roost." Thomas Verrett, 18 years old, the same age as Jesse Morrow. Some coincidences aren't coincidences. They're the story insisting on being told. I want to know who's listening to this right now. Whatever country, whatever corner of this world these old stories have reached, drop it in the comments. Just that. I read every single one. Here is what I know about guilt. It doesn't age the way most things age. Wine gets better. Wood gets harder. Even grief softens at the edges with years. Guilt doesn't do that. Guilt stays sharp. It stays exactly the shape it was on the day it was born. Heaviest in the quiet hours, the 3 in the morning hours when there's nothing between you and the shape of what you did. Elias Wade had carried the weight of Thomas Verrett for 4 years. Legal, clean, correct by every rule of the code. And it had eaten him alive ever since. Not the kind of moving the dime novels romanticize, the kind that's just running, dressed up in a saddle. Colorado, then Arizona, then 3 days ago, the road east had run out. And now the debt had found an address. The light in Creed at sundown was the color of old iron. Not gold, iron-colored, dull orange at the horizon, fading to dark gray overhead. Every window had a face behind it. Every doorway held a shadow that was someone who'd decided watching was safer than being watched. Elias Wade stood at the north end of the street. Same coat, same hat. The only difference, he'd unbuttoned the right side of his coat and folded it back, clearing access to the holster at his hip. The revolver there, worn to a matte finish that caught no light and asked for none. Cole Verrett stood at the south end, dressed in black. The stillness of a man whose entire body had been organized around a single moment that hadn't arrived yet. 20 yards between them, close enough that neither man could miss by skill, far enough that a fraction of a second still made a difference. The sheriff said the words, challenge and acceptance and terms, his voice flat and quick, like a man reading scripture he no longer believes in. The iron light held. Cole Verrett spoke across the 20 yards. "You didn't have to come here," he said. "No," Elias agreed. "Thomas would have been 22 this year." "I know." A long beat. The wind moved once across the street and then stopped, as if it too was waiting. "You ever think about it?" Cole asked. "Every day," Elias said. "Doesn't change what happened." "No," Cole said. "It doesn't." He adjusted his stance, weight shifting forward onto the balls of his feet. The micro-adjustments of a body that has rehearsed this moment until the body knows the steps better than the mind does. "He was better than he had any right to be," Elias said. "Your brother. He was fast. He wasn't fast enough, but he was genuinely fast. You should know that." Something crossed Cole Verrett's face. Something complicated and too brief to name. "I know," he said quietly. Then he drew. Cole Verrett was fast, the fastest man in Creed. His hand dropped to the grip, his fingers closed. The gun cleared leather in a movement almost invisible to the eye. Elias Wade's hand had already moved, with the economy of a man who spent 40 years removing every unnecessary motion between intention and execution. The gun came up along the straightest line between hip and eye and fired once. The sound split the silence wide open. Cole's gun cleared leather a breath later. His finger found the trigger on reflex, even as his shoulder came apart, and the shot went into the dirt 3 feet to Elias's right. Cole stood for a moment. Then his gun hand dropped, and he sat down heavily in the street, like a man who has been walking a very long distance and has finally decided to rest. Elias crouched beside him in the dirt. "Why?" Cole said, his voice tight with pain, but the question was genuine. "Because your brother didn't deserve to die," Elias said. "And you don't deserve to either. Not for this." "You go on now," Elias said. "Get that shoulder seen to. And when it heals as much as it's going to heal, go find something worth spending the rest of your life on. There's still time. There was time for Thomas. I took that from him. I can't give it back, but I'm not taking it from you, too." He walked back down the street. He didn't look back. Jesse Morrow was waiting in the livery doorway. He'd heard the single shot. When he saw Elias walking toward him, upright, unhurried, coat still folded back, he felt something leave his body that he hadn't known he'd been holding. "It's done," the old man said. "Verrett's alive. He won't draw again. He'll be leaving Creed by morning." Jesse exhaled slowly. "Why didn't you kill him?" "Because I've killed enough people in the right to know it doesn't feel any different than killing people in the wrong. The weight's the same either way." "What do I owe you?" Elias stopped. "Nothing. But here's something that isn't a debt. It's advice, which you can throw in the dirt, same as those oats if you want. Learn to read a room before you speak in it. The West'll kill you for pride before it kills you for anything else." He went inside. Elias Wade spent 4 years carrying Thomas Verrett as a wound. Tonight, in the dirt of a main street in Creed, he carried him differently. Not lighter, exactly, but differently. He used the worst thing he'd ever done as the reason to do something better. That's not justice. That's something harder than justice. Jesse Morrow stayed in Creed for 2 more years. He went from mucking stalls to learning the smithing trade. He got decent at it, then good. He never became a gunfighter. He never needed to. Cole Verrett left the next morning, his right arm in a sling, Draper and Sykes behind him. He headed south. Nobody heard from him again. On the 4th morning, Jesse found Elias's room empty. The bed made with a neatness the establishment hadn't earned, and on the small table by the window, a silver dollar. Left there for no particular reason Jesse could identify. He kept it for the rest of his life, which turned out to be a long one. Eventually, he had it made into a watch fob, soldered to a short length of chain, and it sat in his vest pocket for 30 years. When he died in 1911, it was the only thing in his pockets worth keeping. His daughter kept it after that, her daughter after her. Whether any of them knew where it came from, I can't say. Some stories don't get passed down with their labels. The name Elias Wade came up twice more in the Arizona territory, in connection with things that should have gone wrong, but didn't. I don't know yet if those stories are mine to tell, but I'm going to find out. If you want to come along, leave 2 words in the comments. I want more.